So last weekend, apparently in Northern Ireland, there was 146 fires, much like, this was 7 days ago, 12 days ago, there was 140 fires that broke out in Oklahoma. But in Oklahoma, they forecast that this day was coming, and they even brought in firefighting resources from 5 surrounding states. So they couldn't then say it was arson on the day when they had announced they knew these fires were coming. However, that is the path that they're taking in Ireland, saying that most of these were set deliberately by arsonists, and this is part of a trend, an ongoing trend. The minister of Greece, they arrested 79 quote-unquote arsonist scum when the fires were going in Greece. Robert Brame went to the courtroom on a trial of a guy they arrested in California to try to get him off the charges and prove these are electric wildfires. There's no way a person could have done this. So we'll go over all that here in just a minute. The Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Services said it dealt with 146 wildfires since midnight on Thursday. You'll see that was probably posted on Sunday. It was within 3 days that they had nearly 150 fires. You'll see that. It comes after a major incident was declared at the weekend when a large wildfire broke out near the Mourne Mountain and led to homes being evacuated, the blazes being treated as arson. Minister of Agriculture and Environment and Rural Affairs Andrew Muller described the wildfires as rural arson, adding that if the fires do not stop, homes could be burnt down and people killed, and serious environmental consequences beyond which we have seen in recent days and weeks. The idea of the barbecue and the idea of a campfire is nice, but they haven't taken the precautions that you'd reasonably expect someone to take. And Mr. Ard said a significant number of the wildfires were deliberate. These are screenshots from a short regarding the same fires in Northern Ireland. Firefighters have battled nearly 150 blazes in just 3 days, with most fires being deliberately set. Most? That would mean out of the 146, 75 of these fires were deliberately set? What happens when fun goes too far? Malicious wildfires in Northern Ireland could lead to manslaughter charges. Wildfires in Northern Ireland, a call to action against deliberate arson. And he urged the public to report those setting the fires, emphasizing the catastrophic potential on lives and environment. In one of my last videos, someone left this comment that 4 teens and littering with the cigarette butt are blamed for a fire that burned thousands of acres in upstate South Carolina, the Table Rock Fire. Here's a photo from the Canton Fire Department in Carolina. You can clearly see that this tree, I can't zoom in much more, is electrically burning. The spots that are not burning, here and here, are not burning, and another spot here that's not burning, are not burning in between places that are highly burned. This part is missing a good chunk out of the tree, while this part is not even burning. And the electric purple that it's burning with, there's probably a reason the Canton Fire Department took this photo and put it out there. It's part of a larger Fox News story of the fires in Carolina. But they're blaming those pesky teenagers and their cigarettes, when I can see that tree is electrically charged. People are not capable of doing that. And this is a video that I made 12 days ago talking about the 140 fires in Oklahoma and many fires in the surrounding states, all of which was forecast and predicted with actions that speak louder than words, where they brought in the firefighting resources from 5 different states surrounding Oklahoma.
Saw Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories had a fire, and then just a week or two ago, Brookhaven National Laboratories had a fire as well. South Dakota had a giant fire, almost 40,000 acres. But the real story is Oklahoma, which had 140 separate fires totaling 170,000 acres. And also on the 13th, they had predicted fire warnings for this area. So this is the NOAA Fire Weather Outlook, and you can see that it covers New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, some of Arkansas. And that actually is relevant because these are the areas that pretty much caught on fire the very next day on the 14th, which is known as Pi Day. We also had a full blood moon lunar eclipse, and it's also the first day of Mercury retrograde for those astrology buffs out there. But anyway, this did affect New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Colorado, Arkansas, Missouri, and South Dakota. New Mexico had 15,000 acres that burned. Texas had over 60,000 acres that burned, very near the Smokehouse Creek fire from last year, which was 1 million acres. And then Colorado Springs had 2,500 acres that burned right next to the Schriever Space Force base. This isn't the first time we've seen fires right next to a base. We saw Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories had a fire. And then just a week or two ago, Brookhaven National Laboratories had a fire as well. South Dakota had a giant fire, almost 40,000 acres. But the real story is Oklahoma, which had 140 separate fires totaling 170,000 acres.
When I Google query 79 arsonist scum, it gives me a few pertinent related results, search results. Here's the headline: Greece minister now confirms the arrest of 79 arsonist scum for the out-of-control fires raging in Greece that have killed at least 21 people. Another one that I titled, The Truth Would Set 79 Arsonist Scum Free. And a blue herring keeps 8 billion savage animals from destroying themselves, essentially. Another one titled, Greece is burning again. Will they arrest 79 more arsonist scum? And then here you see the guy in shackles and the jail outfit. Blue herring, patsies, and cover stories save the people from themselves. Let's hear a little bit from Robert Brame, who tried to get this guy set free because Robert knows these are not the kind of fires people can set. We're about to watch Robert Brame attempting to free a guy from jail who has been framed for starting fires in California and wanting to present the evidence that shows he could not have possibly started these fires.
Anyway, yeah, I had to put that in there. Oh, here's the gentleman that's in jail in Mariposa. He's been in jail since last June, and they say he did it. They have overwhelming evidence. They have zero evidence. I spoke to his daughter in Alaska and his lawyer. The lawyer doesn't believe me. I told him, watch my videos, and I'm going to be in that courtroom in his first appearance. I showed up in the courtroom in Mariposa somewhere about a month ago. He saw me, and he represents everybody in the courtroom. He's the public defender for every criminal coming in there. He represents everybody. So I saw this guy, poor guy, coming in. He's chained up, handcuffed, chains around his ankles, been in jail since last June. Is he a super scientist we've never heard of? He could have never started these fires. They framed him and put him in jail. So in the courtroom, his lawyer walked over and talked to the prosecuting attorney. They were whispering, looking at me across the room. It's a very quiet room. Then they went over and talked to the judge. The three of them are looking at me and whispering. They went in the back room and disappeared. When they came out, the judge said, we're postponing this trial till 2 months from now in March. No reasons at all, nothing. They saw me in that courtroom and they didn't like it. They didn't even give a reason why they're postponing it. So this poor gentleman's got to sit in jail for 2 more months.
Oh, that is how they do it. There is so much funny business going on, and it's not funny.
Yeah, and his lawyer, they say, oh, he really wants me to help. He's not called me or reached out to me at all. This is a board I found is what is a year and a half now or 2 years. It has a little nail in each burn spot. If you look close, some of them fell out when I was moving it.
What you just saw was an excerpt from the video that I made titled Blue Herring, Patsies and Cover Stories Save the People from Themselves, and linked in the description And the pinned comment of that video is the one titled Peggy Hall, Healthy American, Unnatural Fires, where she has Robert Brame on as a guest, and he goes over the evidence of these electric wildfires where it is clear that there is an electricity coursing through the things that burn, proving a person cannot do that. This video will be linked in the description. Blue herring, patsies, and cover stories save the people from themselves. And if you go in the description of that one, you can see the full interview of Robert Brame on Peggy Hall's channel. He is the only other person who has done anything remotely close to what I have in documenting these electric wildfires. I suggest watching his content. But the reason I title that the way I do is because I understand why it's necessary to frame a few people. And he says, well, this poor gentleman has to spend some more time in jail. We don't necessarily know what that poor gentleman has or has not done. The 79 arsonist scum that were arrested by the Greek Prime Minister, those people weren't just chosen at random. Those people were very likely wanted for other things, you know, like they couldn't even get Al Capone until they got him on some tax evasion charges because he had such a good setup going. Those 79 people they arrested in Greece were probably not innocent on everything and clean as a whistle. They were probably people that they had a reason for wanting to arrest them and decided to pin this on them. And I understand they need to tell the public it's arson, arson, arson. Even if it requires framing a few people and saying we arrested the guy that did it. Because that saves the other 8 billion people from savagely tearing themselves apart, which is what would happen if the truth got out there that electricity is coming up out of the ground, burning the trees from the inside, and your governments have no control over any of it. That is why they would rather the public believe it is directed energy weapons that someone has some control over. Because if the public found out no one has any control over this, the government would not have any control over the people, the fabric of society would come unraveled, and all of the world as we know it would completely crash and disintegrate. All civil society, all polite society would come to a screeching halt. That's why it is necessary to keep the people thinking it's anything from arson to directed energy weapons, because if they clue in and find out it's geomagnetic induction, there goes the society and the system that we all enjoy and are dependent upon. Back to the fires in Northern Ireland, a man has been arrested in suspicion of arson and unrelated traffic driving charges. Huh? Listen to what they say closely here. He's arrested on suspicion of arson and unrelated traffic charges. Maybe because they don't have any evidence to support arresting him for suspicion of arson. So they're like, he was swerving. Yeah, the cop here saw him driving erratically and dangerously, recklessly. We're going to charge him with reckless driving. Officer Fraternal Order of the Fraternal Brotherhood over there saw him driving recklessly, so we're arresting him for that, based on nothing more than the testimony of the good officer here. And put it out in the newspapers that he was arrested for suspicion of arson. We got the culprit. Everyone calm down. We got this under control.
Now, a man has been arrested on suspicion of arson after a wildfire in Northern Ireland. Firefighters are also trying to deal with a fire in Scotland, the latest in a series of fires in parts of the UK after a period of dry weather and an increase in temperatures. Well, let's bring in Matthew Thompson for more on this. So, Matthew, just bring us up to speed with the latest on this arrest.
Yes, so the police service of Northern Ireland have just announced that they've arrested a 25-year-old man on suspicion of arson and unrelated driving offences, they say. They earlier said in a statement that they believed the fire to have been started deliberately. You can see some pictures of it there.
So wait a minute, he says something about a period of dry weather and increase in temperatures. Are these arson, or is it due to dry weather and increase in temperatures and barbecues and campfires? A little both, little this, little that. Lead your attention in any direction other than the electricity component of these wildfires.
With a fire in Scotland, the latest in a series of fires in parts of the UK after a period of dry weather and an increase in temperatures. Well, let's bring in Matthew Thompson for more on this. So, Matthew, just bring us up to speed with the latest on this arrest.
Yes, so the police service of Northern Ireland have just announced that they've arrested a 25-year-old man on suspicion of arson and unrelated driving offences, they say. They earlier said in a statement that they believed the fire to have been started deliberately. Pictures.
So wait, did they arrest him because they suspect him of arson? Or for some unrelated driving traffic charge? Oh, both. Yeah, a little of both. For the same reason that we know if there was an incoming asteroid that was projected to hit the Earth, they would not tell the public, because the public's response would be as destructive as the impact of the asteroid, if not worse. And for the same reason, they must keep the public unaware of the electric wildfires, that which I call plasma fires, and refer to anything from dry weather and increased temperatures to most of these fires were set intentionally by arsonists. Most of the 150 fires. So just like in Greece where they arrested 79 arsonist scum, most of your 150 wildfires that happened in 3 days were set intentionally. That means you've got 75 arsonists in your neck of the woods too. There's just suddenly this massive uptick in people intentionally, deliberately setting fires, more than there ever has been in all of history. Sure, that's fine, as long as you don't realize that the electricity's coming up out of the ground and no one has any control over any of this. It doesn't matter what you believe, anything but that is fine. So for the same reason, they need to not tell people, like the movie Don't Look Up, where the people who got on the news and told the public there's an incoming asteroid and it's going to hit the Earth, they got taken off grid, had a bag thrown over their head, had to sign non-disclosure agreements, because when they announced this one night at a bar, if you've seen the movie Don't Look Up, you know the scene that I'm talking about, where one of them opens their mouth at a bar and tells the people the truth about what's really going on, and windows start breaking and buildings start burning immediately. For that reason, to save the people from themselves is why it is very necessary to do anything to keep the people from realizing it is electrical ground current coming up out of the ground, burning the trees from the inside out. Because if they notice that on a massive scale, if this understanding spreads and goes viral, society as we know it is over. We will have to install martial law mandatorily worldwide. And in order to prevent that scenario from coming about, we need to put out headlines that say it's arson, that say we've even arrested the suspect, and to tell people, you keep an eye out for those people. Here, we're going to create a hotline. You can call in and report someone if you see the arsonists setting these fires. Keeping the people distracted and occupied and their attention focused upon anything besides the truth of what's happening here is an essential necessity for the continuity of society. It is an existential crisis, an imperative that we keep the people from discovering this truth. Ergo, this YouTube channel that you're watching right now should have been erased a long time ago. So I think they're in a position where they want to keep the supply chains functioning long enough that they can keep stocking and supplying their doomsday bunkers, and Elon can keep launching his Noah's Ark capsules. Because once the public figures out, hey, we had 150 fires in Ireland over that weekend, and then just the weekend prior to that, it was 150 fires in Oklahoma and the surrounding states, and while it's happening, they just keep telling you, arson, barbecues, campfires, dragging chains, welding, anything. Because eventually the public's going to catch on. And then it comes to a grinding halt. Then they just got to man their bunkers and hop in and close the latches. By the way, did they ever come out of Cheyenne Mountain? When they did the C-19 operation, that gave them the reason to coordinate a dry run of worldwide cooperation of locking your population down. It gave them the opportunity to mobilize military assets and resources and move them around the planet the way they did. So before they batten down the hatches to try to weather the storm, they want to keep supply chains functioning as long as possible until the last minute when it's time to close the hatches. And I think that's what the C-19 was, a worldwide operation. I'm sure it was multifaceted, but one thing it definitely did was had every government in the world cooperate on this worldwide operation, and with the exception of 2 or 3 like Tanzania and a couple others whose president didn't go along with it, and then they were quickly removed and replaced, that was just a dry run for the real storm. You remember, Trump, this might be the calm before the storm. What storm, Mr. President? You'll see. The world elite are watching the situation reports, and they're all very aware the trees are burning from the inside, and to keep the public from not noticing as long as possible serves their purposes, and it also honestly serves our purposes, because we are reliant upon the current status quo of the system. We are dependent upon it, and if everyone suddenly stopped paying their taxes and obeying the law and transferred their retirement savings over to their bucket list because they know they ain't got much longer before they got to spend it or not, then the whole thing would come to a grinding halt and we'd all be screwed. So I understand the need to put out stories about arson and even put out a couple of patsies up and say, yeah, we got the guy that did it. Go back to doing what you were doing. Riders on the storm. Are you hoping to be on one of those airships taking off? Come on, baby, take a chance with us and meet me at the back of the blue bus, or it hurts to set you free. But you'll never follow me. So don't delay, act now. Supplies are running out. Allow if you're still alive. 6 to 8 years to arrive. And if you follow, there may be a tomorrow. But if the offer's shunned, you might as well be walking on the sun. Dun, dun, dun. Might as well be walking on the sun. Me. Can you picture what will be so limitless and free when you're desperately in need of some stranger's hand in a desperate land? We got dragons, we got lightning. We got people. We got ships. We got it all going on right here. We got tornadoes with fires at the bottom of the tornadoes, or the whirlwinds, aka ionic wind, electric wind. You see the little fires at the bottom of the whirlwinds. Something about an angel Mariah who rides the angel that rides in the whirlwind. And we got dragons. We got red dragons. We got blue dragons. We got it all. And we got goats. Yeah, we got mad goats. Mad goats. It's going to be a star-spangled celebration. Hell of a party. Got red plasma, blue plasma. It's going to be the bomb. We don't just have the big red dragon on the right and the big blue dragon on the left. We got a bunch of little dragons here and there and everywhere, all up in there. And on the 8th day, the good Lord said, "Let there be dragons." And there were dragons, and he saw that they were good. Notice the similarity between the black hole in the center with the black spiky ball on that other painting. And here we got the whole parade of planets coming in. And he is lit. His candle is straight lit. And on one side, you got the rapture going on. Or you can hop in the truck that just peeled out. I think this guy was depicting the plasma apocalypse in these paintings. Dude who painted this was pretty lit. Oh yeah. And that dude would be Scott Tuckfield if you want to check out his galleries. He's got them online. Sure, he's easy to find. I know this is just a CGI image, but notice that the houses are burning on the inside, and you can't see much flame on the outside, but through the windows you can see that they're all fully engulfed inside. That's actually how these fires work. But never mind, nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Move along. It's just some kids with some cigarette butts, and we got them, and maybe a barbecue here, and a campfire there, and some welding, and someone dragged their chains, and someone parked on some dry grass, and when all else fails, it was an arsonist, and we got our perp. Got him in custody. Carry on.
Zeus here, god of thunder, inventor of fire. Look, fire's one of my most epic creations. Great for camping, cooking, smiting people, but it doesn't belong on the roads. Trailer chains like these can spark a wildfire if you let them drag. So just make sure they're all tightened up. Otherwise, you really are gonna be on the highway to Hades.
Secure your trailer chains. Use your fire sense.
Hey bro, tighten those chains!